night I was at the classroom and I was filming stories from David Shannon, Duck on a Bike and Duck on a Tractor. But the video where I did Duck on the Tractor, the sound was all messed up. So I'm going to reread this to you guys. And it's a story that I love, so I enjoy reading it many, many times. But I talked about how Duck on a Bike is both by David Shannon. He is the author and the illustrator. And he has used this main character, Duck, who likes to go on crazy adventures, as the main character in both of his stories. Now, we're going to read Duck on a Tractor, but I want y'all to think back as I'm reading on how these two books are the same and how these two books maybe are a little bit different, okay? We're going to compare and contrast them in a little discussion at the end, okay? All right, so the end of Duck on a Bike, I love this page where it says the end. It showed Duck looking up at a tractor with his expression like, can I try that? And here we see him actually taking a chance on this tractor. So this is the second book by David Shannon about Duck. And oh my goodness, these pictures are incredible. I'll try to keep them close to the camera for you guys because they're wonderful. All right, it says, down on the farm, Duck sometimes got wild ideas. So in that very first sentence, I want to pause and tell you guys this. The author has already told us the setting of the story. He's told us that it's going to happen on a farm. But I have a hint that maybe the setting will change. Maybe they're going to go for a ride on this, and they might even leave the farm. But it's going to start out on the farm. And it also tells us the main character, Duck, and it tells us kind of that main idea of how he gets wild ideas. All right. One day he decided he could ride a bike, so he did. Then he spotted the tractor. I bet I can drive a tractor, he said. The other animals weren't so sure, but they all said, well, if he can ride a bike, maybe he can drive a tractor too. Oh, look at him. Duck climbed on the tractor and looked around. He pushed some pedals and wiggled a metal stick, but nothing happened. Then a shiny little piece of metal by the steering wheel caught his eye. He pulled it out, he pushed it in, then he turned it. What are they talking about, boys and girls? What is he pulling out and turning? The key. All of a sudden, the tractor shook and coughed and rumbled. It began to move. Now, right here, it says the tractor shook and coughed. Now, does that mean the tractor actually is going coughing? No. The author has used this word, coughed, to try to explain the noise that the engine or the motor is making as it is trying to start to work. At first, it moved very slowly, and it jerked a lot, but it was fun. Duck drove around the barnyard until he got the hang of it. Then he stopped in front of the other animals. Climb on, everybody, shouted Duck. Dog was first. He jumped right up next to Duck. Woof, said the dog. But what he thought was, we're going for a ride. To everyone's surprise, Cow clambered on next. Moo, said Cow. But what he thought was, this is the silliest thing I've ever done. Pig and Pig took a seat in back. Oink, said Pig and Pig. But what they thought was, this sure beats walking. Look at their expression. Oh, they're going to enjoy that ride. Then came Chicken, Mouse, and Goat. Squawk, said Chicken. But what she thought was, last one on is a rotten egg. Squeak, said Mouse. But what she thought was, I can see everything from up here. Ma, said Goat. But what he thought was, I'm hungry. Does the garbage dump have a drive-through window? Oh, that silly goat, always wanting to eat trash. Next up was Horse and Cat. Cat jumped up gracefully onto the tractor. Horse, not so much. Oh no. Meow, said Cat. But what she thought was, I was going to take a nap, but this should be very interesting. Nay, said Horse. But what he thought was, I think I'd rather walk. The only one left on the ground was Sheep. Bah, said Sheep. But what she thought was, this is too dangerous. Get on, Sheep, everyone shouted. But Sheep wouldn't budge, so Duck started driving away without her. Wait, cried Sheep. Don't leave me here all alone. She ran after the tractor and took a flying leap onto it. Quack, yelled Duck. But what he thought was, wahoo! Duck steered the tractor down the lane and onto the main road, and before long they were driving right through the middle of town. It was lunchtime, so most people were in the diner. They all looked up when Duck and the other animals passed by the big window. So here they are at the diner. It says Lily's Diner, and it says breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Look at those people. Now, wait a minute. Did we have lots of people in the first story? So maybe that's a first difference. Besides that he's riding a tractor, is that there's going to be more human characters in this book. A little boy named Edison was having lunch with his grandma. Did you ever? Grandma gasped. But what she thought was, a duck on a tractor? That's impossible. That's totally awesome, Edison shouted. But what he thought was, no one's gonna believe this. Marcine the waitress, so this is Marcine right here. Marcine the waitress looked up from her pad and noticed Cat. Heavens to Betsy, she exclaimed. But what she thought was, I like cats. Deputy Bob blabbered, if that don't beat all. But what he thought was, how am I going to explain this to the sheriff? A man named Otis chimed in. I must be seeing things. But what he thought was, oh no, not again. Holy cow, hollered Manny the cook. But what he thought was, holy cow. Manny usually said exactly what he thought. The mayor almost choked on his pie. Good gravy, he sputtered. But what he thought was, those pigs are even fatter than I am. Look at the mayor. Corky just whistled. But what he thought was, that duck is smarter than he looks. Gwen came out of the restroom. Would you look at that? She exclaimed. But what she thought was, I can't see a thing without my glasses. And Farmer Odell observed, that's a dang nice tractor. But what he thought was, hey, that's my tractor. Oh no. He decided he'd better go after it and ran out the door. Everyone else ran out too and chased after him. Oh, Duck, you've been caught. By this time, Duck had turned onto the next street. The tractor shuddered to a stop. Duck tried turning the shiny little piece of metal again, but nothing happened. I don't know much about spelling, said Dog, but I think that E... You see how the little line's pointing to the E? He says, I think that E means end of the road. Is that what that letter E means, boys and girls? No! E means empty, the gas. He is on empty. Sheep cleared her throat. You know, she said, I think we might get in trouble for this. Let's get out of here, yelled Duck, just as Farmer Odell and everyone from the diner came around the corner. Look at all of their expressions. Oh my goodness. So I love that the author and the illustrator, who's the same person, David Shannon, added in this page because it reminds me of a similarity from Duck on a Bike. Do you remember this page right here where all of the animals stared just like those people are staring right now? There's no words on the page, but we get so much meaning just by looking at what's happening in the picture. The author is really telling us something here, even though that he did not put any words on the page. Maybe they're thinking, now how did that happen? Where did those animals go? Everyone burst out laughing. Nah, they all said. It couldn't have been. It was an optical illusion, exclaimed Otis. Farmer Odell said he must have left his tractor running by accident. I guess that explains it, Deputy Bob agreed. Then they all went back to the diner to finish their lunch. Oh boy, Duck, that was a close call. He almost was found out. And no one ever admitted that on that day they had seen a cow, a goat, a cat, a dog, a sheep, a chicken, a horse, 2 pigs, a mouse, and a duck on a tractor. The end. The end. So boys and girls, as you were listening and I was reading, did you hear some similarities from the way he told the story of Duck on a Bike? I heard him use the same kind of descriptive writing, how he would say the sound that animal makes, like woof. And then he would say, the author would say, but what he really thought was, and he would explain what the animal was thinking, even though he was using their sound word as well. He did that in both of these stories. So he used that same style of writing to describe the thoughts and the voices of each of the animals. And in both of these stories, we see Duck going on a ride on a something that will be his transportation, his bike or his tractor. So he's on some sort of transportation, and he's enjoying it with all of his friends, isn't he? Now, some of the things that were different was Duck on a Bike, they only stayed at the farm. Duck on a Tractor, they also went into town and saw the diner. Another big difference is that Duck on a Tractor has more human characters in it. And those humans actually have speaking parts. Okay? Did you notice anything else that was the same or different from these books? I'd love to know. I'd also love to know that if you were David Shannon, what story could you write next about Duck? Would he be Duck in a truck? Duck on a car? Duck on a skateboard? So I want you guys to think about some sort of transportation that you could write a story about Duck being on if you were the author David Shannon, okay? Maybe even write it out a little bit for me and draw me a picture. I would love to see that too, okay? So I hope you enjoyed these 2 farm stories, and I enjoyed reading them with you, so thanks for watching.